The question that we need to get apart to the diaspora is, how do these countries that were poor, and some of them accept homosexuality, and some of them don't. Singapore doesn't. Dubai doesn't. But they're clearly countries that were poor and became rich. Some, albeit small, Luxembourg, Germany. How do these countries get there? Number one, there's reinvestment into certain industries, and there's incentivization for entrepreneurs to get involved in the industries to make those things change. And you just don't see that here.
Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Janita Maya and this is the Repat podcast. I'll let my co-hosts tell you who they are.
Hi, my name's TJ, here in Uganda from the UK, starting a business called Subi.
Okay, perfect.
What's up, guys? Master Gabs back in the building, and happy to be here. Let's go.
O'Shea Duke Jackson, African-American from Sacramento, California.
Okay, so guys, watch this video with us. It's from Vice News on TikTok and react to it with us.
LGBTQ refugees fleeing violence in Africa are left sleeping on Canada's streets. We're here outside of the City of Toronto Referral and Assessment Center. That's where refugee claimants come from all over the world just to get settled and get shelter space. But for dozens of African migrants specifically arriving to the City of Toronto, they're being shut out of shelters and being forced to sleep outside.
I chose Canada, but unfortunately, I'm here for almost 2 weeks. I feel so sad. We expected at least people of Canada, the central government, whatever it's called, to welcome us.
Some of the African migrants have been forced to sleep outside this building for up to a month. This includes many in the LGBTQ community, fleeing from persecution from countries like Uganda, where the government has just enacted capital punishment and long prison terms for queer individuals.
I was accused of promoting homosexuality in Uganda when I was found doing an outreach for my fellow LGBTQ individuals. That is when police started hunting for me. I decided to leave the country to settle for Canada. In Uganda, being an LGBTQ person is really, really punishable, and you're liable to life imprisonment, you're liable to being killed.
Actually, why I'm here, it's because we were caught back with my partner. You don't live openly back home. It means you either have to be an outcast, you have to be stoned to death, you have to be flogged naked around the village, and you have to be humiliated, and you are rejected.
But after fleeing to Canada, some have ended up sleeping on the streets for months. This is because of infighting between levels of government, with the City of Toronto claiming they have no shelter space, and the federal government maintaining that they provide hundreds of millions of dollars to support refugees.
Okay, guys. You've heard it from this lady. What do you think? Do you actually think these refugees are actually refugees, or they're using this whole new bill that has been, signed in Uganda as a one-way ticket out of this country? But I want to hear what you guys think. I'm sorry.
Who wants to start? Let me start then.
Please.
This is a very controversial video, and I really don't like to deal with sexuality a lot on this podcast because everybody knows where I stand. I think I've made that the case before. But ultimately, when I am going to the U.S. Embassy, I always see so many, because obviously, you have your state services where American citizens can go. And then if you can look at Ugandans applying for a visa, it's always full. So the problem for me is not somebody's sexuality, because even before, people are just trying to get out of here. And on the flip side, you see a lot of us from the diaspora communities romanticizing the economic opportunities in Africa. And at the same time, as we're trying to come, it seems like there are those who are going. So I think that this persecution of these particular people for the Uganda's new law is just a small, minute thing. Because if you go and even look at these people who are being caught in Libya, dying on the, in the sea, things like that, trying to get to Italy, trying to get into Tunisia, things like that. The biggest problem is, what have we done as a continent to give these people those opportunities? I think that we're just basically saying that these people are being persecuted as Africa, but I can guarantee you most of those folks are not gay. And that was the same case 5 years ago. Every embassy every day in Africa, I'm pretty sure every U.S. embassy, people were spending like $300 for an interview and trying to get there. They've been drinking like 6, 7, 8 times, right? We saw a lot of them in Poland when I was there. Nigerians, Zimbabweans. In the UK, it's easier to get in respect to, with respect to what it was before. So what is the issue there? And then what you come back to altogether is bad governance. That's the ultimate issue. So nobody would leave their homeland to go be a refugee in somebody else's country if they had the opportunity that's there. Now, if we want to use this particular clip to talk about these people saying I've been persecuted because of homosexuality, well, yeah, I can understand that could be the case for some people. But that's not the case for most people. Most people have that issue, and we call it the brain drain. And before I take it to the next person, I was watching Channel News. Channel News is the biggest news contributor out of Nigeria. Yeah. And they did a study of Nigerians who moved to Canada. And the study from the people that they interviewed, they asked them, based on your experience in Canada, would you come back to Nigeria? First question they probably asked was, the weather. Most Nigerians felt it was too cold in comparison to where they were from. But out of all these people, 98% said they would never come back to Nigeria and live. So I think that's the big issue in the African world that we're talking about. And really, it's not about somebody's sexuality that's being discussed. That's a very small, minute problem because, again, you've always had this immigration trying to come to America since the 60s.
Yeah.
Or Canada.
Okay. Gabs, I see you thinking hard and long.
I mean, this is a divisive topic, and I've, in recent experience, I've learned not to just make bold statements on divisive topics because I don't want to be an agent of division any longer. I want to. I want to bring my
no more viral videos.
I mean, shit, we can go viral if that's what it calls for, but no. In all seriousness, right? And I'm different from a lot of people in that I don't have any issues with people's lifestyle choices when it comes to their sexual preference and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. You are who you are. I continue to maintain my position that what you eat don't make me shit.
Yes.
So I can only be so invested in another person's choices in life.
Yes, there you go.
Right? If it doesn't personally impact me, how I live, how I get my money, how I feed my family, the security that I provide for my wife, and the livelihood that I'm trying to create for myself, as long as it does not encroach upon what I'm trying to achieve, I'm not going to invest so much energy into feeling a type of way about the choices that another person makes. But I'll say this. I think the culture of Ugandans or East Africans or Africans in general, of course, not every country has the same history of flight from tragic circumstances and seeking refuge in foreign countries. You know, a person from Sudan's story will be vastly different from a person who comes from Uganda. A person from Rwanda or DRC. People from countries all over Africa have legitimately tragic, horrific stories that inform why they or their parents had to seek refuge, had to leave their home country and seek refuge elsewhere in the world.
Okay.
So I don't want to be insensitive to the people for whom that is the truth of their reality. I will say this. I have personally witnessed within my own family history scenarios where people have sought refuge for made up reasons, right? I have family members that are living in a country outside of Uganda right now. I won't even give too much detail. I don't want somebody to come looking for them talking about you lied, deport you back to Uganda right now. But I have people that have gone to other countries, sought asylum, told stories that were wholly fabricated, and achieved the end result of getting asylum, for the purposes of ultimately setting themselves and their family up for better opportunities out there in the world. So again, back to the point of this topic here, I see a lot of who I identify as openly gay Ugandans living quite comfortably here.
Right? No one is running up to them.
I don't see any, I see men and women, public figures moreover.
Yes.
Gubs.
That's true.
I'm not saying any names.
Oh, okay.
But if you know who you are, then you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Right? And I think by virtue of your pearl clutching reaction, you know who I'm talking about too, Joe.
Yeah.
Right? There are people who live their lives in the public eye.
With brand deals.
Oshay, please. You're giving out too many details. Cut that out.
This guy's doing the most right. Who live an openly alternative lifestyle.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem to be an issue for them. And if I'm
Is it because they have money? But what I'm asking is this. Do you think because these people here, I would assume that these people were poor here. Does it matter if you have money?
Possibly it does. But then again, I think, it's hard to say. It's hard to say because if Uganda is a nation that is so hell bent on eradicating the scourge of homosexuality within its population, whether you have money or not shouldn't matter. If this country is as it's being represented in the global news media, if it's hunting, persecuting, and eradicating homosexuals the way that the people who seek refuge are claiming that they are being hunted and persecuted, then I don't think having money would eliminate the risk factor for you. So that's questionable to me. I wonder about the inconsistency of that because what I see with my own eyes on a daily basis, on each and every single day basis, I see clear. And my gaydar is strong, by the way.
Okay.
Come on.
My gaydar is strong. Joan, let me tell you something. Don't get it twisted. My gaydar is very strong, and it's very clear and obvious to me. Certain individuals are gay, openly gay, living out loud and proud, yet they don't seem to have any issues. And that's what's not sticking for me. And so I agree to a point with O'Shea in that a lot of the people who are out there seeking asylum probably aren't that. They're opportunistic, and they're seeking the opportunity to go out there into the world and look for a better life. And if I claim to be a part of this group of individuals that are in today's news media highlighted as somebody who may be subject to persecution by the Ugandan government or by the government in whatever country that I come from, then there's a higher than minimal likelihood that I'll achieve my goals. But I mean, I'm skeptical. I'm always going to be skeptical about certain things like this because it's like, how do you tell? How can you tell? Can you give somebody a blood test and verify?
You know what they should do? Maybe they can make them like kiss the same sex brother in front of the camera, and then we'll see who's actually gay.
People will go through deserts and long arduous journeys. A kiss, I think, is light work.
There you go.
Really?
Light work, Joan.
Yeah.
I I mean, girls kiss all the time, but a man to
You wanna tell us something?
You
What about
kiss your girlfriend for a shot of tequila. You think a nigga won't kiss his brethren
for a visa?
for a visa?
Man.
Come on, man. Stop it.
Go ahead, TJ.
So, just some observations. The supposed most anti-gay country in the world, and the most liberal country in the world, there's a loophole developing. I think if we're talking about extremes, without saying anything too harsh, what's the chances that both sides have the right of their policies for the best interests of their people? If both are at extremes, I would say possibly these policies are probably not healthy on both ends. The other thing that comes to mind is I think there's a conversation not happening, or there's something that I don't think has been pointed out.
Okay.
Is that the perspective of homosexuality in the mind of the most anti-homosexual, anti-LGBT person in Africa. So there's a conversation that I think is impossible because of the perspective of the most anti-LGBT people in Africa, or you name the place, and the most pro-LGBT community. The fundamental difference that they can never agree on, or the reason why the conversation can never make sense, is because the anti-guys don't believe that it's something that is inherent. And the people on the other side believe that it is something that is inherent. And if you cannot agree on those 2 points, then the rest of the conversation can't even be had. So I just think in terms of these people coming over, they're not interested in the activism of it or whatever. They're just using it for their advantage to gain, and they're making the transition over. And this bit of media is just part of whatever their appeal is to come to Canada. Lastly, I think there is a misconception in the minds of many Africans what they think they're going to find when they go to the West.
Yes.
I have staff, and I talk with my staff, and they ask me all kinds of questions about what it's like in the UK. They didn't believe that there's homeless people in the West. They think that everyone is rich. I'm saying it like, I'm sure people have heard this before. They were literally you mean there's poor people?
Yeah.
No. There's people without houses.
Yes,
there's people without houses. They don't understand the concept of indentured work, living in debt, living a miserable existence to pay your bills just to make it to the next day, next month to month. There's a different kind of suffering, maybe not on the same level. We can argue about that. But I think some of these people may find that homelessness is what's waiting for you in Canada when you go over there. And it might be a rude awakening especially if you've done it. You're not even gay. You go over there, you might not even receive what you feel you're entitled to.
Yeah. And this whole episode is not to be insensitive to whoever is actually going through this, because maybe some people out there feel like their life is threatened and are facing stigma from the community and whatnot. So we're not trying to generalize and be insensitive to whoever is actually going through this. But recently there's a famous, well, not famous, he's a Ugandan, he's a comedian. He's off X. I can't call it Twitter now. He's off X. And I think someone was trying to expose him. So he made this whole video. I think he was talking to the BBC or something, talking about how he was gay and he was, he felt like his life wasn't safe where he was. And the whole documentary was following him around. He was giving a massage to a fellow man, talking about he's not safe and whatnot. But it turned out that he was actually doing all that just to get a visa to leave this country. You know, he was doing all that just for a visa. Like, he legit went through all these things. Like, he's a man who has a girlfriend who is getting married, I think. But he, like, back then, I think 5 years ago, he had this whole clip and he was using that to get a visa. So when you see these people, they don't look gay to me. And I know you can't say someone looks gay because, you know, being gay is, you know, what's in the heart and whatnot. I saw a comment and one of the ladies was saying, look at someone's father embarrassing himself just to get a visa. You know, even with the way they were talking, it came off as fake. I'm sorry to say this to our fellow Ugandans. I know we're supposed to support you in whatever it is you're going through and whatnot, but it comes off fake. It comes off like you just decided to come up with this cause so that you can get something out of it, and it's not like a legit thing. Because I'm sure if you are fearing for your life, you wouldn't want to be seen on media showing your face to show people where you are now, so they can easily find you. I mean, if you're not feeling safe and whatnot,
that is the true damage for anyone that is actually in a situation of life and death. This is the true damage. It's like Black Lives Matter abusing the funds. What damage does that do to the black community?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You get caught messing about, pretending. That's when the opportunities close for those that really need it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Agaba. You want to say something?
So it's
I'm sorry, what?
let me just complete this before Gab says. It's really messed up, honestly. It's messed up, you know, that they do that. But what I think someone in the comment section should let me know, because like I don't get it. You know, talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old. Is Canada obligated to take in refugees? Because how are they getting this visa? Because I'm sure they're talking to they're going to the embassy of Canada here, and then how are they doing it? Because like, how are they getting to Canada is what I'm trying to find out. Someone let me know in the comment
Well,
section.
let me just say this.
Yeah.
You have something you want to say?
Go ahead.
I think what we're looking at is something that's very micro, and we're addressing a small issue of homosexuality in people that are homeless or refugees in the country. Let's get back to the bigger argument. The bigger thing for me is that you don't have opportunities in this place. And to Gab's point, we are all very familiar with people here who are openly living that lifestyle, but economically, they're still getting brand deals. They're still doing very well. That tells me that if that person had money, then it leads me to believe they were poor wherever they were at. So now, what is the problem that we have in these developing countries in Africa? There's no investment into the infrastructure, and there's no investment into industries to help them grow. Most African countries that are suffering, the biggest budget they're spending is military defense. And the military gets more expenditure than something like agriculture. We just did an episode a few months ago about the roads here. So now the question is, what about the ladies going to Oman or Dubai or Saudi every day here in Entebbe? Can we say that these people are they're leaving for the same reason I expect everybody else is, because you have rife corruption and no reinvestment into and things can't grow.
Yeah.
The question that we need to get apart to the diaspora is, how do these countries that were poor, and some of them accept homosexuality and some of them don't. Singapore doesn't. Dubai doesn't. But they're clearly countries that were poor and became rich. Some, albeit small, Luxembourg, Germany. How do these countries get there? Number one, there's reinvestment into certain industries, and there's incentivization for entrepreneurs to get involved in the industries to make those things change. And you just don't see that here, okay? The private sector in most developing countries, it's terrible. Right? And then there is no rules of engagement.
Yeah.
Now, once we can get to that, now the country, I believe Uganda, I think everybody, every citizen owes like 1.5 billion shillings, something like that, right? Which is not bad, because almost every American owes like $83,000 or more. Okay? So then now, these people bearing the debts of this economy in these countries, what is the results of what their money is supposed to be? Now, once we can get either very talented Ugandans or the diasporan Ugandans to say, okay, the entertainment industry works like this, but it should work like this. Then we can develop something on the market that we can produce. We talked about your Crocs or your
my EVA clogs.
EVAs, clogs, right? Subi. Yeah. Those things. So we need things that give people an incentive to say, okay, we're in the market. Somebody's going to come into the market and be a maverick and suffer eventually for other people to come in and develop the industry. Now at that point, just like Nollywood or Afrobeats, things that people would not buy before, but Nigeria sells probably as much of its entertainment industry as we know it for oil. But that's because it was reinvested and then it got better over time. So that's what we're not dealing with in markets like Uganda, in markets like South Sudan, in those markets. So what are those things that undergird that? Sexuality is something that's very minimal in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not dealing with that. That's something that's a symptom of the argument. I want to deal with something that's big picture because heterosexual, gay or straight, you're leaving there because really you feel like there's no opportunity. Yeah. Because you don't see many gays leaving America. Let's say I'm going to live in Sweden for persecution, even though there's opportunity in America. So the thing is, people are leaving these countries of Africa because they feel like this is hopeless here. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. So the conversation I feel that needs to be addressed is why is it hopeless in the private sector and what can those things be done in the private sector to include development in any major industry? And those are the questions that we need to get back to, undergird the philosophies in that conversation alone. Once we start talking about why they're there, whatever, I think it gets off-putting and it's off track from the main idea. The main idea is Africa's industries are not developing. And once this whole Africa free trade agreement gets into play, which they're working on, but we can assume that it's going to happen at one point because almost every country has ratified but Eritrea, then what are you going to do with your people who can contribute in this big global market and this big value chain, but you don't have the skilled level people to actually move anything? You can't move your shit around. Why are you not in a position to move your shit around? Then once you have an incentive to do that, people are going to come and help you. So what we need is, and it could be our talented business community abroad or here, but the diaspora and the private sector has to get to work to solve problems here. We already know in Uganda, for an example, we're getting $2 billion a month in remittance. So Nigeria is getting somewhere it's like $28 billion or $30 billion. But I'm not trying to pocket watch anybody's money. But what can the business community do to be innovative to get these things to make Africa profitable so that people are not leaving and they don't end up refugees in Canada or in America somewhere or in Dubai or in Oman or in Saudi? I think that's the bigger question that we're talking about and not sexuality.
Yeah, I mean, that was a brilliant point. I remain skeptical for a variety of reasons about why this conversation remains so important to the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. And who keeps driving the narrative among the rest of the world.
You mean homosexuality?
Yeah, I mean, not generally, not the topic in general. I'm talking about, okay, so let me be more specific, right?
Yeah.
Why my skepticism comes into play. And I stand to be educated about this, so please, again, in the comments, share links, drop stories, do everything that you want to do to educate us, right? How many times have you heard stories about so-and-so Ugandan was publicly persecuted for acts of homosexuality? Because here's my thing. Mm-hmm. Nothing escapes people's attention.
Yep.
Particularly in this era that we're in, where everybody is an amateur news reporter.
Yeah.
Via social media.
What's that status?
So you can't tell me that if so help me follow this train of logic here. Mm-hmm. So members of parliament declare that homosexuality is immoral. Mm-hmm. Members of parliament declare that homosexuality is immoral, and therefore they table a law.
Yeah.
Parliament passes it, and it is now a law that engaging in XYZ is punishable by these extreme penalties.
Right.
Up to and including death.
Okay.
Right? So now, where are the people that they're making an example of?
Right.
Why are we not seeing examples of public trials, public prosecution of people that are doing this? Because you don't have to look far to see people engaging in that which they have outlawed.
Right.
You don't have to look far. You don't have to dig 10 meters under the ground. Right there, hidden right underneath the surface.
Go to any fashion show.
People are doing it.
Please.
You get my point, right? You get my point. My point is, when you think about people fleeing their countries and being refugees, you see glaring examples of that which they're running from happening on a daily basis to the masses. Thousands upon thousands of people are killed in this Rwandan genocide. Therefore, we need to leave. Millions of Rwandans have been killed in this genocide. Therefore, I'm running for my life. In Sudan, there's a war raging.
Liberia.
Yeah. There's war raging. There are so many cases where people are legitimately, their lives are in peril on a daily basis, and they have no alternative but to flee and seek asylum, seek refuge. All of the Syrians that fled to Europe, and we saw how all of that turned out. But in the case of Ugandans who are claiming that they're being persecuted and my life is at risk, where is it? Where in your highly active social media community of Ugandan that cannot let a single guy's lunch be kept secret? Now all of a sudden, there's thousands upon thousands of people that are out here being punished, but we're not hearing about it daily. We're not reading about it daily. So that's what fuels my skepticism over the legitimacy of people keep on saying that, oh, I'm a refugee and my life was at risk and blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm taking it with a grain of salt. And the reason why I ask about the narrative is because, at the end of the day, I'm a Ugandan. I'm a patriot. I'm a proud Ugandan. I love this country. And for me to just continually see people painting Uganda with this brush of being intolerant or what have you. Okay, the law was passed. Great. The law was passed.
So many laws are passed.
Exactly. So many laws are passed. There was a law passed the other day that if you don't have a trash can in the back seat of your car, you get a penalty of how many millions of shillings?
Are you serious?
Right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a rubbish bin in the back of your car, they're trying to stop littering. So if you don't have a rubbish bin in the back of your car,
You get a fine.
you get fined 6 million shillings, and you might go to jail.
We need to buy a trash can in the car.
So the point that I'm making is, when you pass laws like this, and it seems nonsensical, and then you pass laws like the anti-LGBTQ legislation, which seems to have shaken up the entire world, yet
there's no evidence.
The number of cases where this has been punished versus this has been punished are equal. It seems like both are inconsequential laws that have been passed. And so I'm just like, why do we have to keep perpetuating this conversation around Uganda's anti-LGBTQ thing? Is it because of its position in the international community and what the American government wants Uganda to, submit to in order to get back into a favorable negotiating position when it comes to all of these things? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. But it all seems fishy to me. It all smells funny to me when thousands upon thousands of people are seeking refuge, yet I'm still yet to see one headline grabbing story that this person has been executed, or this person has been prosecuted and convicted, or this group of people were, I don't want to say that word, so I won't say that word.
Don't say it.
But you get my point.
We get your point, guys. We get your point. Yeah. But to piggyback on what Oshe was saying about this, it being a symptom of a bigger issue, there's a lot of unemployment in this country. I have friends who have master's degrees and they can't find jobs. Like literally, they are unemployable. So an employer will look at them and be like, "Oh, you have what? A master's degree in what? Okay, I can't hire you," because like you may be too expensive for me or something like that. So there's also that issue in this country. And then the other issue that I see is the lack of practical skills, or can I say soft skills? No, I think it's the practical skills. I think we are still in that whole, oh, my child has to be a doctor, a lawyer, that type of job and whatnot. Yet there's so many practical skills that kids can take on, and they can be, they can have something for themselves without necessarily looking at leaving the country. Recently, my carpenter, they call them fundis. Kenyans call them fundis. The amount of money that young man makes is a lot. And that's just him posting on social media and then him making these amazing art pieces. So now and people look down on such work because like, how can you be a carpenter? You're a carpenter? Like, how can you be that? You understand? And there's so many young boys coming up in interior design, and they're amazing. Yeah. So I think as a nation, we just need to change our perspective on my child has to be a lawyer or that and that, a white collar job, and then see that my child can actually earn from something else and they can also be great. And not sending all kids to university. You guys, I don't think the one thing that I'll say university can teach is just character development and making friends. In Uganda, you can learn other things. I'm not saying university is useless, but I'm saying there are other options that are that may not necessarily be going to university that can actually benefit your child. Yeah.
You know what else happens at university?
What else?
Shit.
I don't want to say it.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Where young people go out there and explore and get to know themselves.
Oh, you mean like that?
Well, there's a lot.
I'm just saying.
Kids are experimenting at university.
Yes. In Uganda.
So, yeah.
They're going to church.
No, there's like a whole. The sex education in universities in Uganda is really strong.
It's very practical.
No, I meant to say that they take it seriously because a lot is happening at these universities. Universities as well. Most kids are liberal and they're experimenting. They're doing the most
in Uganda.
Yeah, which other country in this country?
I think O'Shea's point is the pertinent, where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Why do people want to get out of the continent? The continent is mismanaged.
Right.
And there is a sin. I think the definition of sin is self-interest at the expense of other.
Yes.
I think that all sin falls under that. What is other? Other could be my brother. Other could be the environment. Other could be the continent, the community, whoever. Could look like me, could look like someone else. Racism is encompassed in that. Colonialism is encompassed in that. Corruption is encompassed in that. And Africa is rife with elites and leadership who all want to better themselves at the expense of other. The ones trying to raise themselves up are following that example. And then when they get in positions, they just follow suit.
Yeah.
It's perpetuated. And it's the biggest reason why the West come here and abuse us. They abuse us because we're not on point, because we're all sacrificing the other for self-interest, small groups. So I think then you're now getting to the question, well, how do you stop that? It's extremely difficult. It's multi-generational. And I've pondered about it. You cannot change someone's mind. You cannot tell someone, change your opinion. The only thing you can do is improve the world by which you live, by being a person of integrity, by not committing that sin. And hopefully people will see things working for you and then copy your example. And if O'Shea builds a community of integrity, he attracts people of integrity. The community builds, then maybe the country builds, maybe the continent builds.
Yeah.
It's just ground up. Maybe multi-generational, I don't know. But we have to keep talking about not committing that sin. I don't think we can change it maybe in our generation, but some things take multiple generations to change. And we have to do it from wherever we are.
Yes.
On those that want to leave the continent, I understand that. I've been in both. The potential is more of your opportunity, in my opinion, is more seeded in your mind.
Yes.
Than in the location that you are.
Mm-hmm.
There is a gold mine here. If you know how to look for it, if you know what you're looking for, if you make connections, if you're willing to fall and pick yourself up. It's all here in Africa. There's struggle, there's problem, there's issue, there's whatever. But that place might not solve your problems. You already know the culture here. You already have connections here. Start from here. That's my opinion on it.
Oh, TJ, thank you so much. Oshay, do you want to add on that?
No,
or we can end the episode.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say.
I feel like this was that was a perfect ending, by the way. Thank you so. But tell them where they can find you if they want to reach out to you.
The Subi Shop on YouTube, at the Subi.shop on the socials. Come check out my story.
Yeah.
Hit me up at Master Gabs on Instagram and check out the Allergic to Average podcast as well.
Okay.
At O'Shea Duke, do not message me on Instagram. Thank you.
Wow. Short and precise. But yeah, guys, if you have anything you'd like to share with us, you can send us an email at teamkenganda@gmail.com. And you can follow us on all our social media pages at Kenganda Nation. Also subscribe to our dating show at the Pan African Dating Show. So we thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.